Welcome to another day of reading of the book Surcharged with Divine Love, written by Sukmani Auntie and published by Unistar Books Private Limited. Chapter 10. Guruji's Stay in Chandigarh. My mother and I were fortunate enough to serve Guruji during his stay in Chandigarh. It was then that I had the opportunity to observe him from close quarters. What people in general saw were probably his silken robes and assumed he liked luxury and comfort, but what we saw was completely different. The silk robes were given to him by his disciples, some as a thank you for saving someone's life, or maybe on the marriage of their children. These dresses he wore once or twice and then gave them away as prasad to any one of his many followers. He had absolutely no possessions of his own except a shaving kit, which too was given by someone. He ate simple food, half of which he distributed amongst those sitting around him. Every night we would prepare his bed on the floor, for he never slept on the bed. Having been his disciple for many years before this, I had never seen this side of him. His simplicity, humility, and innocence put many of us to shame. I remember an incident where Guruji was distributing chapatis during a stopover at his village. One chapati fell down, and as my mother lifted it up to put it aside, he told her not to throw it and that he would eat it himself. Such was his humility and kindness. He never ate before his Sangat and never let anyone go without feeding them. No one was allowed to put money at his feet like it is usually done in India as a sign of respect to a saint. Whatever gifts he received from the Sangat, he would further distribute them. He kept nothing with himself. We were instructed by Guruji to bring halwa prasad for him to distribute among the Sangat. We were also told that apart from the family and one of our maids, Saraswati, no one else was to enter the kitchen while the prasad was being cooked. We took great care to follow his instructions. My mother and I were given the duty to sweep and mop the entire house where Guruji stayed as well as wash his clothes. Since we didn't want to be late for our duties, the major work of preparing the prasad fell on our maid Saraswati, who too was a follower of Guruji. The prasad used to be brought to the mandir just before the Sangat started to arrive. I would then cool it enough for Guruji to distribute it with his hands. One day, as soon as Guruji touched the prasad, he asked me, Sukmani, who has made the prasad today? I presumed, like always, it must be Saraswati, and I told him so. No, today the prasad is not nice. Someone else has touched it. Although he still distributed it, but kept telling me it wasn't nice. I never noticed anything wrong with the texture. It looked the same as always and didn't understand what was wrong. I rang up home to ask Saraswati what had happened, and she said that the second maid had entered the kitchen for a few minutes and she did touch the prasad. I apologized to Guruji for the mistake but was still confused as to why some people were allowed to touch his food while others were forbidden. Sensing my dilemma, he said, ਅਸੀਂ ਹਰ ਕਿਸੇ ਦੇ ਹੱਥ ਦਾ ਖਾਣਾ ਨਹੀਂ ਖਾ ਸਕਦੇ। ਕਿਸੇ ਕਿਸੇ ਦੀ ਵਾਈਬ੍ਰੇਸ਼ਨਸ ਨੈਗੇਟਿਵ ਹੁੰਦੀ ਹੈ ਤੇ ਖਾਣਾ ਬਣਨ ਦੇ ਟਾਈਮ ਉਹ ਵਾਈਬ੍ਰੇਸ਼ਨਸ ਖਾਣੇ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਆ ਜਾਂਦੀਆਂ ਹਨ। ਮੈਂ ਹਰ ਕਿਸੇ ਦੇ ਘਰ ਵੀ ਨਹੀਂ ਖਾ ਸਕਦਾ। ਕਈ ਲੋਕਾਂ ਦਾ ਪੈਸਾ ਸਖਤ ਹੁੰਦਾ ਹੈ। ਸਿਰਫ ਮੈਨੂੰ ਹੀ ਪਤਾ ਹੈ ਕੌਣ ਮੇਰਾ ਖਾਣਾ ਬਣਾ ਸਕਦਾ ਹੈ। A Mahapurush cannot eat food prepared from just any hand. Some people have negative vibrations, which while cooking goes into the food. That food then harms us. Also, I can't eat food from certain families even though they may be very nice. Only I know who can prepare my food and who cannot. Guruji, what is the significance of this prasad that you distribute? I asked. ਇਸ ਪ੍ਰਸ਼ਾਦ ਵਿੱਚ ਮੇਰੀਆਂ ਬਲੈਸਿੰਗਸ ਹੈ। ਇਹ ਪ੍ਰਸ਼ਾਦ ਸਿਰਫ ਅੱਜ ਦੇ ਵਾਸਤੇ ਹੀ ਨਹੀਂ, ਮੈਂ 25 ਸਾਲ ਅੱਗੇ ਤੱਕ ਤੁਹਾਨੂੰ ਇਸ ਦੇ ਨਾਲ ਬਲੈਸ ਕਰ ਸਕਦਾ ਹਾਂ। ਪ੍ਰਸ਼ਾਦ ਮੰਦਿਰ ਵਿੱਚ ਹੀ ਖਾ ਕੇ ਜਾਇਆ ਕਰੋ। ਇੱਥੇ ਦਵਾਈ, ਬਾਹਰ ਮਿਠਾਈ। The prasad I distribute to you all is charged with my power. I take all your bad karmas and give you blessings. My blessings may not be for just today, but maybe for an event 25 years down the line. He further added, eat all of what is served in the temple here itself, for here it will act like medicine. The moment you take it home, it becomes less effective. Importance of Kara Prasad. Kara Prasad is prepared with wheat flour, sugar, and clarified butter. Sometimes semolina is used instead of wheat flour, but the actual recipe is with wheat flour. Any addition to this only makes it a halwa recipe, not halwa prasad. Adding all three ingredients in equal quantities signifies equality. All three ingredients lose their individual identity and come together to form the prasad. This teaches us an important lesson that if we wish to gain spiritually, we must kill the ego. The tradition of serving the Kara Prasad started from Guru Nanak Dev Ji, when in Baghdad he sang the Shabad Lakh Akasha Akash Patala Patal, which means there are lakhs of worlds below the earth and above it. The Muslim peer got furious with Guru Nanak and said he would stone him to death if he is unable to prove it. So Guru Sahib asked the peer if he is asked the peer who out of all his men did he trust the most. The peer pointed towards his son, and thus Guru Nanak Ji took his son and gave him the darshans of all the Patal Loks and heavenly Sachkhand as well. From Sachkhand, a bowl of prasad was brought back by the son to prove the existence of other worlds. Guru Sahib ordered a bit of the prasad to be distributed to all present there, and on tasting it, the peer fell at Guru Sahib's feet and said, I have never tasted anything so divine. How can we make this available to others in this world? This is when Guru Nanak Ji started the tradition of making the holy Kara Prasad. Prasad is a divine blessing from your Guru. You must accept it in your cupped hands and not on napkins or plates. Guruji too insisted on giving the prasad on our hands. Kara Prasad's importance is further understood by reading the following katha. Two men are traveling to meet their Guru when on the way they stop at a holy gathering. There they are served Kara Prasad. They both don't eat it and think of offering it to their Guru. So they tie it in a piece of cloth and carry on traveling. At night, when they stop to rest, they notice that their prasad is missing. They thought it may have slipped out of the cloth, but the knot was still intact. Feeling confused, they reach their Guru the next day and narrate the whole incident to him. The Guru then explains to them that they made the mistake of not eating the prasad. He further explained that there are various entities in the atmosphere that are dying to eat prasad because they know that even by eating a small grain of it will free them from their miseries. That is how important prasad is. Every evening, we would bring fresh flowers for the temple as well as his room. I soon noticed that the ones in the temple stayed fresh for at least 3 4 days, while the ones in his room had to be changed every day as they would get burned. Not able to stop myself, I asked him, Guruji, why do the flowers in your room get burned around the edges while the ones in the hall remain fresh for many days? ਸਾਡੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਜਿਹੜੀ ਪਾਵਰ ਹੈ ਉਹ ਅੱਗ ਦੇ ਗੋਲੇ ਵਾਂਗੂ ਹੈ। ਜਦੋਂ ਮੈਂ ਮੈਡੀਟੇਸ਼ਨ ਵਿੱਚ ਬੈਠਦਾ ਹਾਂ ਇੰਨੀ ਪਾਵਰ ਪ੍ਰੋਡਿਊਸ ਹੁੰਦੀ ਹੈ ਕਿ ਸਾਨੂੰ ਓਵਰਫਲੋ ਕਰਨੀ ਪੈਂਦੀ ਹੈ। ਇਸ ਹੀਟ ਨਾਲ ਤੇਰੇ ਫੁੱਲ ਮੁਰਝਾ ਜਾਂਦੇ ਹਨ। ਜਦੋਂ ਮੈਂ ਸੰਗਤ ਵਿੱਚ ਆਸਨ 'ਤੇ ਬੈਠਦਾ ਹਾਂ ਉਸ ਵਕਤ ਮੈਂ ਤੁਹਾਡੇ ਸਾਰਿਆਂ ਉੱਤੇ ਇਸ ਪਾਵਰ ਨੂੰ ਉੜੇਲ ਦਿੰਦਾ ਹਾਂ। The power in me is like a ball of fire. The heat generated during my meditation is what causes the flowers to get burned, replied Guruji. Every night when I sit on meditation, the power in me builds up to such an extent that I have to let it overflow. When I sit on the asan amongst all of you is when I let the power overflow. I now understood why people who came to the temple were getting cured without saying a word to Guruji. His aura was so strong that whoever came within its range instantly felt better. पानी, चाय, लंगर और प्रसाद ਵਿੱਚ ਮੇਰੀ ਪਾਵਰ ਹੈ। ਜੋ ਮਿਲਦਾ ਹੈ ਖਾਈ ਚੱਲੋ, ਮਨਾ ਨਾ ਕਰੋ। ਕਦੇ ਵੀ ਪ੍ਰਸਾਦ ਨੂੰ ਵੰਡਣਾ ਨਹੀਂ। ਜੋ ਪ੍ਰਸਾਦ ਤੁਹਾਨੂੰ ਮਿਲਿਆ ਹੈ ਉਸ ਨੂੰ ਤੁਸੀਂ ਹੀ ਖਾਣਾ ਹੈ। ਜੇ ਵੰਡੋਗੇ ਤਾਂ ਨਾ ਤੁਹਾਡਾ ਭਲਾ ਹੋਵੇਗਾ ਨਾ ਹੀ ਜਿਸ ਨੂੰ ਦਿੱਤਾ ਉਸ ਦਾ। The water or the tea that you drink here, the langar and the prasad are all infused with my power, so never refuse anything that gets served here, said Guruji. And most importantly, never share your prasad with anyone. What I give you is for you alone and not for anyone else. If you share it, then neither you nor the person you share it with will get benefited. It is then that I understood the importance of everything that got served in the temple. What others thought to be normal tea and food were actually divine amrit. Ever since I met Guruji for the first time, I was aware of a beautiful fragrance that came from him. I used to wonder if it was something that Guruji used, maybe a perfume, but could never quite understand. Each time I pressed his feet, the fragrance would start coming from my hands as well. Everything he touched would become fragrant. Each morning, when Guruji got up from meditation, I would go into his room to clean it, and the fragrance would be so strong that I sometimes had difficulty breathing. It was as if 100 bottles of perfume had been broken in that room. Being the curious person that I am, I just had to know the source of this beautiful fragrance. I asked him, Guruji, what is this beautiful fragrance all around you? He laughed at my foolishness and said, It's not perfume. I felt a bit sheepish, but I had to probe. Then what is it? Guruji, please tell me, why was the room so fragrant when I entered it this morning? Guruji then explained, ਇਹ ਖੁਸ਼ਬੂ ਮੇਰੀ ਬੋਡੀ ਦੀ ਨੈਚੁਰਲ ਖੁਸ਼ਬੂ ਹੈ। ਕਰੋੜਾਂ ਅਰਬਾਂ ਮਹਾਪੁਰਸ਼ਾਂ ਵਿੱਚੋਂ ਕਿਸੇ ਇੱਕ ਵਿੱਚ ਹੀ ਇਹ ਖੁਸ਼ਬੂ ਹੁੰਦੀ ਹੈ। ਸ਼ਿਵ ਜੀ ਵਿੱਚ ਇਹ ਖੁਸ਼ਬੂ ਹੈ। This fragrance is in my body. 1 in a million Mahapurush will have this fragrance. Lord Shiva has it. At that time, I never understood the importance of what he had just told me. He then made me smell his hands and feet. The fragrance was divine. In the same room where Guruji meditated, there was a photograph of his feet kept on a wooden niche. Sukhmani, look at that photograph. Every day, Amrit flows out of it. I got up to see the photograph, but I couldn't see the Amrit flowing. I did, however, notice that the photograph, although laminated, was getting puffed up as if due to moisture. I was asked to smell it, and sure enough, the photograph had the same fragrance. Every day, when I entered his room to clean it, I would first go to the photograph, hoping to see the Amrit flow. For many days, I could not see it, till one day, as soon as I opened the door, I saw Amrit flowing from the picture. My mother and I both witnessed the miracle, and I, being me, had to taste it. I took a drop of it and tasted it, and I cannot describe how tremendously divine it tasted. I scrutinized the photograph, turned it upside down, wiped it dry, but still the Amrit continued to flow. Ever since that day, this was my daily routine. I would wait for Guruji to get up from meditation and leave the room so that I could taste a bit more of his divine Amrit. No doubt Guruji was aware of my drinking the Amrit and made sure it never stopped flowing for as long as he stayed in Chandigarh. One day, as I entered Guruji's room to clean it, I noticed a yellow patch on the green colored carpet. Assuming someone had dropped something, I began to scrub the patch vigorously. Just then Guruji walked into the room. What happened? Asked Guruji. Guruji, there is a yellow patch on your carpet that I'm trying to clean, but it's not going. Oh, that! That patch got burnt last night, therefore it's discolored. Now touch it and see. I've just taken out Amrit from that patch as well. Although I was scrubbing the area with a dry cloth, the patch now was wet. I smelled it, and it had the same divine fragrance of his Amrit. The patch remained fragrant as long as Guruji was in Chandigarh. After cleaning the temple and Guruji's chamber, I would then wash his clothes. Needless to say, his clothes too were drenched in divine Amrit and had the same fragrance. I tried washing them till the fragrance could go, but that was just my stupidity. The more I washed them, the stronger the fragrance grew. No matter through how many waters I took them out of, the fragrance remained. No perfume could pass this test. I always had a habit of collecting things that Guruji discarded, things like a plaster on his finger, seeds of fruits that he ate, or an old towel or old glasses. I soon had a bag full of things belonging to Guruji. I would replace the toothbrushes sooner than they needed changing and keep the old ones. I even collected the dust that got swept out of his room. For me, even that was more precious than anything in the world. I was known as the little thief in Guruji's mandir. Guruji was obviously aware of my activities and was rather amused. If by chance I would forget to collect something of his, he would quietly push it towards me and point out, Sukhmani, don't you want this? I would then quickly grab it before anyone could think of throwing it away. One thing that I always had my eyes on were his shoes. I was fortunate enough to be given his dresses as prashad, but I always had my eyes on his shoes. Each time he would give them away to someone, he would look at me and smile, but he never gave them to me as long as he lived in his physical body. The day Guruji took Mahasamadhi, I cried in front of his photograph and said, Guruji, if you truly loved me like your daughter, send me your shoes. I don't care how you make it possible, but until you do, I won't believe you loved me enough. Within 2 months, I had Guruji's shoes in my hands. For a short period, Guruji switched from wearing silk dresses to cotton ones. My mother got one dress for Guruji prepared in cotton. Just as soon as she had it stitched, Guruji went back to wearing silk again. Feeling a bit ashamed of presenting him with an ordinary cotton dress, my mother decided not to give it to him. One night I saw Guruji in telepathy and he asks me to bring to him the cotton dress that my mother had got stitched for him. I managed to convince my mother to give it to him, but instead she just quietly kept the dress in his room. While giving us leave for the day, he told us to come the next day at 2 p.m. On reaching the temple at 2 p.m., as instructed, we were told that Guruji had gone out and had instructed us to wait. Within 10 minutes, Guruji walked in wearing the cotton dress that my mother had got made for him. A guru doesn't see the value of a gift offered by a disciple. What he does, however, see is the love and intention with which it is offered. One afternoon, I noticed Guruji had gone in for his bath and there were two dresses hanging outside the cupboard instead of one. I thought he may be going out somewhere in the evening and maybe he will need to change. I continued to go about my work and forgot about the dresses. My sister was visiting the mandir that day and Guruji called her inside and asked me to bring tea for her. Just as I handed her the glass of tea, she knocked the glass and spilled all the tea onto Guruji's dress. Guruji very calmly looked at me and said, "तू सोचती सी ना दो ड्रेस क्यों हुन जा ते दूजी ड्रेस लेके आ." You were wondering why I had two dresses hanging today. Now go and bring me the second dress. As he changed and sat down again, I asked, Guruji, आपको पता था चाय गिरेगी? You knew that tea will be spilled on your dress today? To which he replied, ਅੱਜ अपने उत्ते ਚਾਹ गिरा के मैं लिटलू ਦਾ ਸਾਰਾ ਕਸ਼ਟ अपने उत्ते ਲੈ ਲਿਆ, ਗ੍ਰਹਿ ਕੱਟ ਦਿੱਤਾ. By having the tea spilled on my dress, I have cut some of her karma. Close the mandir today and tell everyone I have gone out, Guruji told my mother and I. Sukhi auntie, you distribute the prasad on my behalf, and after everyone has gone, come and tell me what happened. As instructed, we closed the temple and told everyone that Guruji had gone out. We distributed the prasad from the gate to the Sangat as and when they came. Some accepted his orders, took prasad, and went back. Some questioned us about his whereabouts, while some got angry with us and never took the prasad. As we finished and went in, Guruji told us exactly what had happened at the gate. He named the people who didn't accept the prasad that day. Do the same thing tomorrow, said Guruji. As instructed, we stood at the gate the next day to distribute the prasad. Again, the same people questioned us and got angry with us. Some accused us of telling lies, some quietly accepted Guruji's orders and went back. After we finished and went in, Guruji again gave us the details of what had happened. Guruji, what was the reason behind this? I asked. ਜਿਸ ਤਰ੍ਹਾਂ ਤੁਸੀਂ ਕੋਈ ਚੀਜ਼ ਨੂੰ ਖਰੀਦਣ ਤੋਂ ਪਹਿਲਾਂ ਟੈਸਟ ਕਰਦੇ ਹੋ, ਮੈਂ ਵੀ ਚੇਲਾ ਬਣਾਉਣ ਤੋਂ ਪਹਿਲਾਂ ਟੈਸਟ ਕਰਦਾ ਹਾਂ। ਅਹੰਕਾਰ ਰੱਬ ਦੀ ਰਾਹ 'ਤੇ ਚੱਲਣ ਨਹੀਂ ਦਿੰਦਾ। ਕਦੇ ਵੀ ਆਪਣੇ ਗੁਰੂ ਨੂੰ ਡਿਸਕਸ ਨਾ ਕਰਿਆ ਕਰੋ ਤੇ ਹਮੇਸ਼ਾ ਉਸਦੀ ਗੱਲ ਮੰਨਿਆ ਕਰੋ। Just as you test something before buying it, I too test people before I make them my disciples. He then said, ego is the biggest deterrent on the path of spirituality. Never question the Guru's orders and never try to probe about your Guru. My mother and I were sitting with Guruji in his room when suddenly he said, the Shiv idol at the Bada Mandir has been installed. I knew that Guruji's temple was being constructed in Delhi, but beyond that I knew nothing. I was there and I even took out a sound from the idol. I could just say, yes, Guruji, as I didn't understand how he could be in Delhi when he was here with us all the time. The next day, a caretaker from the Delhi temple came with a box of sweets to meet Guruji and tell him that the Shiv idol had been installed the day before. Guruji just looked at me and smiled. Similarly, we were again with Guruji when he asked both my mom and me to press his feet. Press my feet and I shall take a nap. My mother and I were busy pressing his feet when he woke up and asked, how much time has passed? I looked at the clock and said, half an hour, Guruji. Just half an hour? I have already been to America. I had never seen Guruji sleep as such and so asked him, Guruji, आप सोते नहीं हो? Don't you ever sleep? He smiled and said, Sukhmani, जिस दिन मैं सो गया ता उस दिन दुनिया खत्म है. The day I sleep, the world will finish. Such strong words, and yet I never understood them till in 2011 when I went through my diaries again to write the first edition of this book. A saintly person visiting Guruji once asked me, do you think Guruji is sitting here? I looked at Guruji and said, of course he is. He's sitting on his asan. Can't you see him? He smiled and nodded. This is just his body. Guruji is somewhere else. That's when we realized that Guruji had the ability to be at two or more places at the same time. One disciple visiting Guruji in Chandigarh felt heartbroken at the fact that he could not get to sit close to Guruji and wondered if Guruji even knew of his existence. Feeling sad and dejected, he closed his eyes to pray, and as soon as he did so, he saw Guruji sitting with each and every disciple in the hall. It doesn't matter where you sit, close or far. It doesn't matter if you can see him or not. Your Guru will always be able to see you and is always near you. All you have to do is call out to him sincerely and he will be with you. Guruji often said, ਜਿਹੜਾ ਮੇਰੇ ਬਹੁਤ ਨਜ਼ਦੀਕ ਬੈਠਦਾ ਹੈ ਉਸ ਦਾ ਕਲਿਆਣ ਮੈਂ ਲਾਸਟ ਵਿੱਚ ਕਰਦਾ ਹਾਂ ਮੈਂ ਤਾਂ ਕੋਨੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਬੈਠੇ ਲੋਕਾਂ ਦਾ ਪਹਿਲਾ ਕਲਿਆਣ ਕਰਦਾ ਹਾਂ People who come and try to sit close to me are the ones I bless last. I bless those who patiently sit at the back or in corners, trusting in my ability to see them even through walls. I feel like eating paneer tikkas today, I told my mother as we were getting ready to go to Guruji's temple. As soon as I entered Guruji's temple, I completely forgot about having made such a statement. Guruji was getting ready to attend a function at a disciple's home that day and asked us to join him. After the function, Guruji instructed a few of us to follow his car. I presumed he was going back to the temple, but instead he drove into a 5-star hotel. Going straight into the coffee shop, he sat down and asked us all to order whatever we wanted. I still didn't remember the comment about the paneer tikkas and ordered a cold coffee and sat down to enjoy it along with Guruji's divine company. I never came to know when Guruji ordered a plate of paneer tikkas, and as it was brought to the table, Guruji pushed the plate in front of me, saying, "आज साडी बेटी ਨੂੰ पनीर टिक्का खान ਦਾ मन है, सारी plate खा जा." Today my daughter feels like eating paneer tikkas. Eat the entire plate. Never had I ever felt so loved and cherished before, and so I ate away with tears in my eyes. Since mom and I had the kitchen seva, I had hidden a bottle of churran, a mixture of herbs and rock salt for digestion, in one of the kitchen cabinets. I have never had a sweet tooth, and Guruji distributed a lot of sweetmeats throughout the day. I would often sneak into the kitchen and eat a bit of churran after every serving of prasad to avoid feeling sick. One particular evening, Guruji had distributed so much of sweetmeats amongst the Sangat that almost everyone sitting there that day was complaining of a stomachache or a sick feeling. Guruji called me to his asan and pointing to all the Sangat sitting in the hall said, "Sukhmani, इन सारियां दा पेट दुख रहा है, सब वास्ते ਨਿੰਬੂ ਪਾਣੀ ਬਣਾ ਤੇ ਜਿਹੜਾ ਚੂਰਨ ਤੂੰ ਛੁਪਾਇਆ ਹੋਇਆ ਹੈ ਉਸਨੂੰ ਵਿੱਚ ਘੋਲ ਕੇ ਸਾਰਿਆਂ ਨੂੰ ਪਿਲਾ. Everyone's stomach is hurting. Make lemon water by adding the churran you have hidden in the kitchen and serve it to them." I did that and everyone felt better and thanked me for sneaking churran into the mandir. Similarly, tea was served in abundance in Guruji's temple. I used to make pots full of tea all day and even had to drink 4 to 5 glasses a day. So much tea, especially during summer months, was very difficult for me to have. Just like the churran, I had sneaked in a bottle of coke and hid it in the fridge. After langar, Guruji would ask for tea to be made and served to the few families that remained. I would gladly make tea and serve to others, and for myself I would pour a bit of coke in a steel glass, hoping no one would know what I'm drinking. Of course, Guruji knew everything. One day he pointed out and asked me in front of everyone, "Ki pee rahi hai? What are you drinking?" "Guruji, it's coke." And Guruji would then laugh and tell everyone how smart I was trying to be. "ना पिया कर, हड्डियां खोड़ दिंदा है कोक, पर ਇੱਥੇ ਪ੍ਰਸ਼ਾਦ ਹੈ, ਚੱਲ ਪੀ ਲੈ." Don't drink coke as it has a lot of sugar which is bad for you. Because you're having it here in my presence, it's prasad, you can have it. This just made my day and I would then keep my stock of coke in the fridge and drink it freely. My mother had an addiction to betel nut, supari, and could not give it up. We tried to replace it with things like bubble gum, saunf, etc., but nothing worked. One day she decided to buy herself a silver box to keep all her supari and went shopping. In her absence, Guruji called up on the landline and asked for her. On being told she had gone out, he replied that he will call back once she comes back. As soon as mom got home, Guruji called up again. He told mom about all the shopping she had done and also mentioned the silver box. "सुखी, तू आज एक चांदी दी ज्योत और थाली लेके आई हैं। 8 सेक्टर ज्वेलर के गई थी। ऐसे कर जो चांदी दी डब्बी ले आई हैं उस विच सुखमनी दा दंत मंजन पा दे." "Sukhi, you went to a jeweler in Sector 8. You bought a silver jyot and a plate and also a silver box. Do one thing, put Sukhmani's tooth powder in the silver box." Now orders were orders and mom had to give the silver box to me for my tooth powder. The day the tooth powder went into the silver box, mom's craving and years of addiction to supari finished. Till date, the silver box holds my tooth powder. One day Guruji ordered sweet parathas to be made for him as well as for the few sangat that was still sitting with him. At 2 a.m. I was in no mood to eat anything more and was feeling stuffed. Guruji went to his room and thinking he wouldn't know, I decided to take half a paratha and share the other half with a friend. Just as I broke into half, Guruji shouted from the room, "सुखमनी, जे अद्धा खाएंगी तो इलाज अद्धा रह जाओगा, पूरा पराठा खाना है." "Sukhmani, if you eat half a paratha, you will not get fully cured. Only half treatment will be done. Eat the full paratha." I got so scared that I gobbled up the entire parantha within minutes. I guess I was someone who didn't learn the easy way. I did something similar with milk as well. Guruji had ordered milk with cardamom to be prepared for him as well as for 5 to 6 people sitting with him, including my mum and myself. We used to prepare Guruji's milk and serve it in a garvi because sometimes he liked drinking more than one glass. For the Sangat, we served them the milk in the small tea glasses we had in the mandir. It was 2 3 a.m. in the morning, and somehow our measurements went wrong and we were short of 2 glasses. Instead of making more, Mom and I decided to serve the milk to all and decided not to have any since we both weren't too fond of milk anyways. We quietly sat behind Guruji, hoping he wouldn't notice. Guruji asked someone to bring to him 2 empty glasses from the kitchen. He filled them with milk from his garvi and without turning or looking at us said, Sukhi, दूध कम हो गया सी चलो दोनों माँ बेटी दूध पियो नहीं तो कल्याण नहीं होना. Sukhi, you ran short of milk. Here, both mother and daughter drink this milk or you won't be blessed. And he pushed 2 glasses of milk towards us. We used to stay with Guruji from 3 p.m. till early morning, sometimes even up to 8 a.m., and never felt sleepy or sleep deprived. Sometimes we would accompany Guruji for a walk on the lake at 2 a.m., and other times wait for him to come back and serve him and the Sangat some more langar and tea. On some days, we would pack tea and namkeen with us, which we enjoyed having there at the lake with him after the walk. I noticed that the moment Guruji stepped out of his car at the lake, peacocks would start making a noise and dogs would bark. The moment he stepped back in, they would seem to calm down. Guruji would often say that animals, especially peacocks and dogs, can sense the presence of a Mahapurush, and this I have seen with my own eyes. When my sister got married in 1996, as any new bride, she used to wear a lot of gold bangles and jewelry. I expressed a desire to my mom to wear something in my hands as well. My mother took out 2 bangles from her locker and gave them to me. I was happy wearing them every day, and within a week I realized one of them had broken. Thinking they were old and have been sitting in the locker for ages, I didn't think much of it. I returned them to my mother and asked her to give me something stronger. On her next trip to the locker, my mother brought a thick gold kada for me to wear. Hardly a week went by when I noticed that the kada had broken too. My maid Saraswati said it's considered unlucky if one's jewelry keeps breaking. What she said stayed with me and bothered me for a while, and feeling a bit bad that I'm just breaking all of my mother's bangles, I gave them back to her saying, Mama, I think it's a sign. My hands are probably meant to remain empty for the rest of my life. After saying that, I left for Guruji's mandir to do my regular seva. I got involved in the cleaning and completely forgot about the words I had spoken to my mother. While I was washing Guruji's clothes, word was sent to me that Guruji was calling me. I quickly ran to his room wondering why he had summoned me in the middle of my chores. As I entered, I saw Guruji lying down on the floor. Sukhmani, aaja mere pair daba. Come, press my feet, he said. I sat down and started pressing his feet. Guruji suddenly sat up, removed his gold kara from his hand, and put it into my right hand, repeating the same words I had uttered to my mother. आले तू कहती सी ना तेरे हाथ हमेशा खाली रहने ने मेरा कड़ा पा हुन तेरे हाथ कदी भी खाली नहीं रहणगे. You said your hands will always remain devoid of jewelry. Here, wear my kara, and from now onwards your hands will never remain empty. I started crying when I recalled my conversation with my mother earlier that day. Guruji hugged me and told me never to remove it till a certain event in my life. Ever since I won the gold kara, all desires to own, buy, or wear jewelry have simply vanished. This is the most beautiful and precious jewelry I own, and as per his instructions, I have never removed it. On my left hand, I have a silver bangle that Guruji blessed and made all of us in my family wear. True to his words, both my hands have never been empty. Many times since that day till right up to a week before his Mahasamadhi, Guruji would often tell me to give him the kara. गुरु दा कड़ा पाई बैठी हैं, दे मुझे वापस. You're wearing my kada. Give it back to me, he would jokingly say and would remove it from my hand and put it into his. He would then wear it for about an hour or so to bless it and then return it back to me. The kada was similarly blessed over and over again. One evening, while I was feeling very low and hopeless and was pondering on why God created man and why we human beings go through so much pain, Guruji called me into his room and asked me, "तू ओ मूवी देखी है, Patch Adams? Have you seen the movie Patch Adams?" I was quite surprised to know Guruji knew about English movies. "Yes, Guruji, I have seen it." He further went on to tell me, "ਉਹ ਸੀਨ ਯਾਦ ਹੈ ਜਦੋਂ ਉਹ ਬਿਲਕੁਲ ਨਿਰਾਸ਼ ਹੋ ਜਾਂਦਾ ਹੈ ਤੇ ਰੱਬ ਨੂੰ ਪਹਾੜ ਦੇ ਕਿਨਾਰੇ ਖੜੇ ਹੋ ਕੇ ਕਹਿੰਦਾ ਹੈ, ਗੋਡ ਮੁਝੇ ਕੋਈ ਸਾਈਨ तो दे, ਤੇ ਫਿਰ ਉਸ ਨੂੰ ਇੱਕ ਬਟਰਫਲਾਈ ਦਿਖਦੀ ਹੈ ਔਰ ਉਸ ਨੂੰ ਹੋਪ ਮਿਲਦੀ ਹੈ। ਬਟਰਫਲਾਈ ਇੱਕ ਸਾਈਨ ਹੁੰਦਾ ਹੈ ਰੱਬ ਦਾ, ਹੋਪ ਕਦੇ ਨਹੀਂ ਛੱਡਣੀ ਚਾਹੀਦੀ ਹੈ। Do you remember the scene where he is completely dejected and hopeless and he stands at the edge of a cliff and asks God to give him a sign? Then he sees a sign in the form of a butterfly and he regains his lost hope. The butterfly was a sign to him from God, never lose hope. At that time, I vaguely remembered the scene Guruji had described. Today, when I look at it again, I realize how beautifully Guruji had answered me. Guruji knew of my love for English movies and again asked me once if I had watched the movie Michael. Sukhmani, तू वो मूवी देखी है माइकल? उस दे विच जॉन ट्रेवोल्टा है, कर जाके देखी. Have you seen the movie Michael? Go home and watch it and you will understand me better. It has the actor John Travolta playing the role. I was amazed to see Guruji being aware of English actors too. गुरुजी आपको इंग्लिश मूवीज़ का भी पता है और एक्टर्स के नाम भी जानते हो? I asked. गुरुजी को सब कुछ पता है, he replied and gave me one of his amazingly naughty smiles. Michael is a movie about an angel and how he too has a beautiful fragrance around him. I highly recommend watching it once. जय गुरुजी. आज की रीडिंग बस यहीं तक. कल फिर अगले चैप्टर से शुरू करेंगे. उम्मीद करती हूँ आप सबको बहुत अच्छा लगा. सुखमनी आंटी का भी फिर से शुक्राना अपनी इतने ब्यूटीफुल एक्सपीरियंसेस को हमारे साथ शेयर करने के लिए. जय गुरुजी.